GMA News. Magplano, magsiguro, makibalita. I am ready. Serbisyong totoo ng GMA News.
Na kalamidad ay ang mga bagay na kailanman ay hindi natin maiiwasan o mapipigilan. Ngayon, ano nga bang ibig sabihin ng natural na kalamidad?
At ano nga ba mga sanhi nito? Masasabi ba natin tayong mga tao ang numero unong dahilan kung bakit hindi maiwas-iwasan ang mga pangyayaring ito?
O isa lamang tayo sa mga kontribusyon sa mga ito. Ang pangunahing sanhi ay ang patuloy na pag-init ng ating planeta at tinatawag natin itong global warming.
Sa kasalukuyang panahon, ang mga taong mayroong mga sasakyan ay umaabot na sa milyon-milyon. Isa ito sa mga dahilan ng greenhouse gases. Ang greenhouse gases ay ang mga gas na masamang epekto, hindi lamang sa ating mga tao, ngunit pati na rin sa ating inang kalikasan.
Ilan sa mga nagbibigay ng greenhouse gases ay ang mga nagsusunog ng mga plastic, mga factory naglalabas ng maitim na usok, mga nagsisiga ng goma at styro, at marami pang iba. Ang mga greenhouse gases na ito ay ang pangunahing dahilan kung bakit umiinit ang mundo.
Dahil sa walang mapupuntahan ng mga gas na ito, sila ay natatrap sa ating ozone layer at dahilan para ito ay lumipis. Ang ating ozone layer ay ang nagre-regulate ng mga pumapasok na UV rays sa ating mundo dahilan para uminit ito.
Bilang resulta ng global warming o pag-init ng temperatura ng mundo.
Dahil sa global warming, uminit na ng uminit ang kahanginan natin, nagbabago na ang climate. Yun na ang tinatawag na climate change.
Sun's radiation comes in the form of light waves, and that heats up the Earth. And then some of the radiation that is absorbed and warms the Earth is re-radiated back into space in the form of infrared radiation. And some of the outgoing infrared radiation is trapped by this layer of atmosphere and held inside the atmosphere. And that's a good thing because it keeps the temperature of the Earth within certain boundaries, keeps it relatively constant and livable. But the problem is this thin layer of atmosphere is being thickened by all of the global warming pollution that's being put up there. And what that does is it thickens this layer of atmosphere. More of the outgoing infrared is...
Now that we know what global warming is, how does it contribute to the occurrences of natural disasters, especially typhoons and earthquakes, because of the recent calamity that happened in Bohol and Tacloban?
Dahil sa matinding pag-init ng panahon, mas malaki ang chance ang mabuo ang isang bagyo sa kalimitan. Kahit napakaliit na pagbabago lamang sa temperatura nito ay mayroon pa ring epekto sa klima.
I've come into the studio to investigate the next weather phenomenon because here in the UK we're fortunate to rarely encounter hurricanes.
Cyclones, typhoons and hurricanes are all names for severe tropical storms, some of the most destructive weather systems on the planet. Storm force winds, torrential rain, massive pressure falls and storm surges are all produced simultaneously by this most deadly weather.
Around the Indian Ocean and Southeast Pacific, these massive storms are known as cyclones. Cyclones tend to affect countries like Madagascar, India and parts of Australia. In the Northwest Pacific, tropical storms are known as typhoons. Typhoons hit the headlines when they affect countries like Japan and parts of Southeast Asia. But the tropical storms we hear most about occur closer to home, hurricanes. Hurricanes hit the headlines when they wreak their damage across the Caribbean and parts of southeastern USA.
You might remember the last really big one, Hurricane Katrina, which struck New Orleans in August 2005. This devastating hurricane was one of the most expensive natural disasters in history. But whilst hurricanes wreak their damage around the Caribbean and the USA, most of them begin life thousands of miles away, out in the Atlantic, close to northwest Africa.
Hurricanes draw their energy from warm seas and can only develop where the sea temperature is 26 degrees Celsius. And they can only develop into major storms when the sea temperature is 28 degrees Celsius, which is like a warm bath, so we're unlikely to see them off the UK coast anytime soon. Like a grain of sand in an oyster creating a pearl, hurricanes require two elements to form around: either developing wave patterns or thunderstorms, neither of which are found under areas of high pressure, where descending air tends to keep the atmosphere stable and the weather generally fine. Other limitations, such as wind patterns in the upper atmosphere and the force of the rotation of the Earth, mean that hurricanes can only develop around a narrow band between 8 and 20 degrees north of the equator. That may seem like a really small area, but it's where the easterly trade winds converge and there's a plentiful supply of moisture. So it's a prime location for developing thunderstorms and the birthplace of the majority of hurricanes.
Everything is in place. Converging trade winds meet. The warm air, heavily laden with water vapour, is forced to rise. In the cooling air, water vapour condenses into droplets. This change of state from water vapour to liquid releases latent heat, which further warms the atmosphere and allows it to become more and more buoyant. The air rises even more rapidly and produces more and more violent thunderclouds.
But that's only the beginning. Trade winds drawn in at the Earth's surface arrive on a curved path due to the Earth's rotation. Here we see the first recognisable pattern of a spinning tropical storm. As the storm grows larger, more moist warm air is drawn in at the surface. More water vapour condenses into cloud droplets and more latent heat is released. This is how energy is driven into the storm and the speed of rotation increases. This system is now a tropical storm, and when the surface wind reaches sustained speeds of over 74 miles an hour, the storm is officially a Category 1 hurricane.
We've all seen pictures of hurricanes hitting land, but what's happening inside the storm?
Rising currents of warm, moist air form thunderclouds. As the air cools, it becomes more dense and falls again, and we get this alternating pattern of storm clouds with clear slots in between. This gives us the appearance of spiralling rain bands, which we see on satellite pictures looking down on hurricanes from above.
Hurricanes are measured on a scale from 1 to 5, depending on the wind strength. As a hurricane grows in intensity, it develops a very distinctive structure, with what looks like a hole in the middle of a swirling mass of clouds. This clear zone in the centre of the storm is called the eye, and around it is the eye wall. The eye wall is the most destructive part of the hurricane, containing the most severe thunderstorms and the very strongest winds. In a Category 5 hurricane, winds in the eye wall can exceed 155 miles an hour. Yet in the eye itself, the wind drops right away to give a short-lived, eerie calm.
As well as causing massive damage, simply because of their destructive strength, hurricane-force winds can have an even more devastating side effect. Have you ever blown hard across the surface of a hot drink and spilt a little bit over the side?
In 2005, Hurricane Katrina blew a wall of seawater, known as a storm surge, ahead of it, which was 8 meters high. It swept over New Orleans sea defences, engulfing most of the city. We're getting better and better at forecasting the strength and direction of hurricanes, giving people living in their path precious time to protect themselves and their property. And we're even able to predict roughly how many storms there will be in each Atlantic hurricane season, information that's very valuable to the insurance industry.
But we still have lots to learn about tropical storms, especially what the impact of climate change will be on the strength and number of these storms and where they're likely to wreak their...
Ang mga bagyo ay isang phenomena na namumuo sa ibabaw ng karagatan. Ang isang ulan ay maituturing na bagyo kapag ang bilis nito ay umabot sa mahigit 30 kilometers per hour. Ang ahensya na nag-aaral, sumusuri at sumusubaybay sa mga aktibidad ng isang bagyo ay ang PAG-ASA o Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration. Ayon sa PAG-ASA, ang isang bagyong may bilis na 30 to 60 kilometers per hour ay nauuri sa signal number 1.
Samantalang ang signal number 2 ay may hanging bilis na umaabot sa 60 to 100 km per hour. Ang mga hangin umaabot sa 100 to 185 km per hour ay nauuri naman sa signal number 3. At ang mga hangin may bilis na mahigit pa sa 185 km per hour ay nauuri naman sa signal number 4.
Ngunit, kaya lamang ay may nabuong bagyo na pinangalan ng Yolanda. At ang kaunahang bagyo sa Pilipinas na binigyan ng taguring Super Typhoon na umabot ang bilis ng 220 km per hour.
Yan ang ibig sabihin ng signal ng bagyo. Pag signal number 1, ang lakas ng hangin kayang magpabaliktad ng payong. Automatic suspension ng klase sa preschool. Pag signal number 2, ang hagupit ng hangin maaaring magpalipad ng bubong. Walang pasok sa preschool, elementary at high school. Signal number 3. Dala nito ay matinding pinsala na kayang magpataob ng sasakyang pandagat. Suspendido ang klase sa lahat ng antas. Pag signal number 4, pinakadelikado at kaya nitong pabagsakin ng matitibay na poste at puno. Gayunman, may pagkakataong walang public storm warning pero sa lakas ng ulan o taas ng baha, maaaring makansela.
Araw nang nakakaraan ang bayuhin ng bagyong Yolanda ang maraming probinsya sa Kabisayaan. At tinitignan dahilan ng malakas at mabilis na takbo ng super typhoon ang climate change.
Maaring masasabi natin na nakakaapekto rin ang pag-init ng hangin sa development ng mga weather system. At ang tropical cyclone ay isa sa weather system na naapektuhan ng environment. Yung pag-develop ng bagyo ay nangangailangan niya ng init na hangin o init ng dagat at yung consistent na movement of the air. Bakit ba gumagalaw ang hangin? Because of the difference in temperature. At pag malaki ang difference of temperature, mas malakas ang hangin. At yan namumuo ang bagyo. Yan ang nagiging dahilan. Possible yun na meron nang kaugnayan yun doon. Pero we have to be very careful with that.
Umaga nang tumulak mula sa BRP Bacolod City ng Philippine Navy ang mga rubber boats ng Naval Special Operations Group para hatiran ng pagkain at tubig ang mga residente sa coastal area ng Tacloban City. Hindi gaya ng mga dating relief mission, hindi na dinaan sa distribution center ang mga relief goods. Sumama ang GMA News sa paghatid ng ayuda sa barangay 70 at 69 na isang linggo nang hinihintay. Ito ang mga komunidad na nawasak ang mga kabahayan, hindi lamang ng hangin ng bagyo, kundi ang mga dambuhalang barko na tinulak ng storm surge sa kalupaan. Ang kabalintunaan, abot tanaw ng mga residente ang pier ng Tacloban, kung saan ilang araw nang ibinabagsak ang tone-toneladang relief goods. Nang makita ang mga rubber boats na parating, agad nagtakbuhan ang mga residente. Pumila naman sila ng maayos para tumanggap ng relief packs mula sa DSWD.
Importante po yung bantayan at itaguyod yung kaayusan para hindi po sila magtulakan, para yung mga mga kinaukulan na mabigyan, dapat mapagbigyan. Hindi.
Para sa mga residente ng barangay 70 at 69 ng Tacloban City, itong unang pagkakataon na makakatanggap sila ng anumang tulong mula nang tumama ang bagyo. Bakas ang tuwa sa mukha ng mga nakatanggap, pero dahil limitado ang nadalang supply, marami ang hindi nabigyan. Kwento ng mga residente, kabilang sa mga namatay dito ang kanilang punong barangay kasama ang ilang mga kagawad. Hanggang ngayon, patuloy na nakakakuha ng patay dito at marami pa raw ang nasa ilalim ng mga barko. Problema din ngayon ang seguridad sa lugar dahil walang pulis na nagtataguyod ng kaayusan.
Anumang panahon, magplano.
Magsiguro.
At makibalita.
Ako po si Mel Senye.
Ako naman si Jetty Vives.
Angelo Nicaro para sa
We are ready! Cha-cha! Hindi na tayo
ng mga pumapasok na UV rays sa ating mundo dahilan para uminit ito.
Uy!
Oh my God! Ano yung mga text natin?
Ang ganda nga nito yun. Tigil ako po kasi.
Oo!
Sabi natin.